The decline of Microsoft Windows. And it's kind of coming sooner than I thought. Now, it's not just going to be all sudden like, hey, everyone has to switch from Windows tomorrow. But we're starting to see some very, very just damaging things happening to Windows, especially on the back end. I know actually several people at Microsoft. I have close ties with many of them. And believe it or not, I've even had some contributions from Microsoft's engineers to the Windows utility. So, yeah, one of my buddies up there, well, he got laid off just recently. And we're also had, I think, the CEO of Microsoft say 30% of the code written in Microsoft Windows is now written by AI. Well, we're starting to see in the Canary builds, specifically in Windows, some of the incompetence, and I'm going to say this is probably AI. I even mentioned this to Coding Wonders, who programmed a lot of MicroWin and helped polish a lot of things in here. We're starting to see some really troubling things happening to the code base, and a lot of the tech debt from using AI really slip in. Like here you see duplication. Now this is just a GPO ADML template, which is used in business to like distribute and kind of maintain a bunch of computers at once. But eventually, I think Microsoft will incur so much tech debt that Windows just gets worse and worse, and it's going to just be like an exponential graph. As it grows, you're going to have to find other solutions and other operating systems as Windows kind of circles the drain. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just saying we're starting to see the first iterations of really, I would just say, just noob mistakes like that should never happen in a big company. And we're seeing it happen in real time. Now, this is the latest Canary build that Coding Wonders points out with some other bug fixes. And I even was like, dude, that looks like CoPilot to me. And they're like, yep. And I kind of go back and forth with my Drift, which is another big contributor on Windows Utility. And it's kind of wild to see how they're pushing a lot of these things out. Now, I think I've made a lot of videos about CoPilot and other things that just don't make any sense in modern day systems. And they're just like, hey, I'm the CEO. We're going to spy on everybody. We're going to copy your screen, whether you like it or not. We'll add a disable button or an uninstall if it makes you feel better. But little do people know in CoPilot, I'll do a separate video on this. It is part of the system. And even Coding Wonder kind of mentions, hey, Client AIX is there, which is part of what CoPilot is, but there also is a new feature that gets baked in. Now, these features are not things you can rip out. You can, but you have to do it on the creation of Windows on the ISO side of things. Now, we can do this for a while, but eventually it's going to get to the point where we can't. Much like how Edge changes every month, and it's like almost not worth uninstalling anymore just because of all the crap and it just kind of gets commingled so much. That's how CoPilot is getting put in. It's not going to be something, you know, I think I saw an LTT video where he's like, oh, you just right click and hit uninstall. Well, if you actually look at the system components, it never really gets uninstalled. It's still there. The underlying features are there. They're just in a dormant state. And there's just ripe with problems that can come from that. I don't think I have to elaborate too much on that. So Coding Wonder is still working on ripping this out, but I kind of want to bring this in shitification and how Microsoft is vibe coding some new features and then also shipping features that no one asked for that's going to be so problematic in the future. So that brings us to the decline of it. And this decline probably will increase a little bit as more software is written agnostically for operating systems, whether it's Mac OS or Linux that you move to or whatnot. But right now it's 70% Windows, about 15-16% of Mac. You see this drop. Well, actually there's about 5-6%. OS X changed to Mac OS, and you have to kind of combine these together. So Mac OS is about 16-17%, something like that. The unknown, I already showed those correlations between the drops in Windows, and this is just specialized versions of Windows. And then Linux has slowly, gradually gone up to about a 4.5% market share from about 1% back in 2015. So that's kind of where we're heading. Most the other alternatives to Windows is going to be Mac and Linux. I think Mac's pretty straightforward and a decent option if you're not a gamer. If you're a gamer, you're pretty much looking at Linux. And I'm actually trying to build out a book for this. I have actually for a couple years now. It's called thelinuxbook.com. And what I'm going to do is just slowly build these chapters out, looking for a first edition release at the end of July. And the idea of this book is to say, hey, here's instead of making just another technical novel like many Linux people out there, where they'll go in there and say, hey, here's all the different Linux commands. Here's how you use it in server. This is going to be more from a desktop or residential side of things and how to fix like Bluetooth audio and visual and things that you typically don't see in technical manuals. And I'm going to put it all online at thelinuxbook.com. I'll probably also publish it through Amazon as well. But I'm not worried about that until I finish all the chapters. And this is all going to be freely available as far as if you just go to the website. I want you to be able to come in here, search, and say, hey, I want to find Bluetooth. And go, oh, here we go, Bluetooth configuration. And then it gives you, spits out, hey, here's everything I need to do to work on my Bluetooth in your system. And I think a lot of Linux desktop is just understanding it works differently from Windows and then kind of expanding on it in that well. But this is what's happening today. AI and Windows and kind of like the enshittification that you see everywhere. And I think I'm going to go ahead and leave you with a quote from Steve Jobs. And he was talking about monopolies and our current state of kind of tech. It happened once in the 1980s when Xerox and many of these other larger companies, IBM, had these monopoly positions and they just weren't creating good products. And the rise of Microsoft, the rise of Apple happened during this. The product genius that brought them to this monopolistic position gets rotted out. The companies forget what it means to make great products. And that's exactly what has happened to Microsoft. It's exactly what's happening to Apple. It's exactly what's happening to all the major players in this space. We are ripe for a change, and that's what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So as much as you'd love to just stick to Windows and not know anything more, that time is gone. The dominance of Windows is no more, and we're only going to see further enshittification from these monopolies. So get to reading, learn something different, try new things, and I'll see you in the next video.